Hi guys, welcome back to 26th video tutorial of J2W. So in this tutorial we're going to develop a web application which is actually taking a username and password with the login servlet, and it will actually validate the users with the database. Then depends on that page, it will actually navigate to success page or failure page. So that step we can take it as first part. The second part we can take it as reading products from products table. Then we can show it in the success page of the login. So let's split this into two parts. The first part I'm going to discuss with you is when our client opens a browser, when our client enters URL like http localhost 8080 with Flipkart. So whenever he enters this URL, what I want to do is I just want to load a login page. So for now in our example, we just showing the hello page in our case. So if a user enters hello, then it is showing hello page. If a user enters Flipkart, then it is showing there's no page it is showing. It's showing not found. Instead of that, I just want to show whenever user comes to the first page, then I just want to show the login page. The login page looks like username and password. The user will enter details like within a text box. He'll be entering his username, and password text box. He'll be entering his password. And we need to have one button which is for submitting the request. So this button actually used for submitting the login form. So this is the login page I just want to display to the user. And the second level, I just want to create a servlet within our application, which is our Flipkart application. Sorry guys. Suppose if you assume this is your tomcat, within that we'll be having our application, which is our Flipkart. So within this, what I'm trying to do is I'll be having one servlet which is named as login servlet. So this particular login servlet will takes care of taking these inputs, and if it will validate this user, whatever the details it is getting from the front end, which is the HTML page, it will actually validate with the database. So at the first step, when user client clicks on submit button, these values, username and password values, will be passed through the form to the login servlet, and login servlet actually validates a user with the database. In database, we'll be having a users table. There you can have the users, and it will validate. Depends on the response it is getting. It will actually return a particular result, which is our response HTMLs. The one is success, the other one is the error page. So it depends on the response what we are getting. It will actually return one HTML file which is success or failure. So what are the results it is getting depends on that. It will actually retrieve, it will decide which page it has to return it. Mm. So if user is valid, then it is return success page. If it is not valid, then it will return the error page. So it depends on that, it will return respective HTML to the client. So let's go and have this HTML prepared, and next we can have this login servlet we can create. And prior to that, let's have a user table, and we don't have users table available now. Let me have users table to be created. So products, anyhow we have the products table and we don't have users table. And let me create a users table, which is I'll name it as so it's a Flipkart application, so I'm just name it as F users, which is Flipkart users. So let me create the table first within MySQL DB. For that, what I'm doing is just creating a table. Hope you remember the syntax for creating a table. Create table F users, and I'll be having ID, which is integer type and not null, and I want to increment it automatically. I don't want to insert this value, I just want to make this dynamic. So add to increment. So this ID will not be not null, and it is an integer data type, it should be increased automatically. And I'll be giving the username and password here. Username varchar of 100. Again, this is not null. The same way, password, which is varchar of 100 and not null. And let me have a primary key, which is ID, primary key of ID. That's it. So we have a ID, which is the primary key, and we'll be having username and password, which is character length of 100 at max. So let me execute this query. So the table got created, and let me verify whether we have any records over there. Hopefully we don't have any records because we didn't inserted anything. Select star from users. So there is no records available. Let me insert one user. Insert into F users. I just want to insert username and password alone. Username, password, values. So the first user will be admin, and the password I'm giving admin. Let me execute this query. So the insertion got succeed. Let me insert one more user, which is James, and James. So you can give different password also, just giving the same names for remembering. Now I have inserted two records, one is admin and the other one is James. Now let me see the records, whether records got inserted or not. So now we have F users table available with two users. One is admin, the other one is James. Let's go to the diagram. And now we have users table ready. And next we have to create username and password, the login form which is in the Flipkart homepage itself. So how to make this happen? Like whenever you click on the homepage URL in the browser, you just need to load a HTML page. The way to do this is we already did that, which is we need to have a welcome file which is index.html. Let me have a index.html created, where we have to create within the web content. Web content is what our Flipkart folder. With if you see in the demo example what we created earlier, web apps demo. So this is where we have to have index.html. This folder is what here, the web content folder. So within web content, if you create, then it will actually place within the Flipkart folder. So let me have a new HTML file create. The name it as index.html. So in index.html, I'll be creating a form like having a username and password. Let me go and create a form for that. HTML, I'll be having a body tag. So if you have any CSS and all, you can have a header tag as well, and you can put the CSS and JavaScript over there. And I'm just mentioning on a simple application. Let me have a header also. So header part, inside header, I just want to show some title. So now in our application, we don't have any title over here. It is simply telling the Flipkart 40 not found. Even if it is hello also, it is not showing any page name. That is simply telling the whole URL. I don't want to show this one. I just want to show my own page URL, like login page or welcome to Flipkart or something. So let me put that over here within the title tag. Or let me have login to Flipkart. So these text I just want to show when user clicks on the home page. Here instead of localhost 80, I just want to show login to Flipkart. The next step we have to go with creating a form which is login form. For that what I'm doing is I'm just having a form with the username and password. Action part I'll discuss it later. So if you want to show any title before this, like if you want to show title like Flipkart or something, if you want to show something uh, before to the username and password, you can put it over here. Flipkart. If you just want to show it, you can show it over there. You can put it in H1 tag to make more attractive. And now within the form, I'm just adding username and password. I can mention username, and I need to have a input text where it takes the parameters. Input type equal to text. The name I'll be mentioning. This is the name we need to use it in Servlet to access this data. Whatever the data user enters, we can use this name to refer that username, and followed by just give a br, which is a break. One line below it will print the other details. Enter password, and here you just give input type password. So the type is password because we don't want to show the uh, password text to the end user. So it's a secret, and just giving it will actually accept as ASCII characters. Everybody knows that how the password field looks like. And name I'm just giving with password. So you can give any name, and with this name you can refer this particular field in your servlet. So br, let me have a button which is submit button. Input type submit, and value is, you can give any value. Either you can give submit or you can give login, anything you can give it. So whatever the value you're entering here, that value will be listed over the HTML page. So we have done with the creating the basic login page. Let's see how this login page will actually looks like in the server. So before that, we just need to add this index.html within the welcome file list. Let me go and add it in the welcome file list. Welcome file list, welcome file, which is index.html. So that's it. Let me start this run this program in server. Let's see the login page how it actually looks like. Next we can create our servlet. Run on server. Yes, restart it. I think it's loading the browser. Yep, we got the Flipkart login. Let's see in the browser how it actually looks like the same page. So it's a Flipkart. Simply click on enter, and he's getting the Flipkart page and username and password fields, and you will be getting a login button. And here if you see, it is not showing localhost 8080 and Flipkart, it is simply telling login to Flipkart. Or you can mention Flipkart here and login to Flipkart here. That makes a lot of sense. Login to Flipkart. I don't want this much bigger text. I just want a smaller text compared to this. Let me put that. So for HTML, you don't need to restart the server every time. You just need to save it and refresh this page. That page will update. So that's it. Now this looks good. So the title, it is having a Flipkart, and the form it is having login to Flipkart. Yep. I think spelling is correct. Yep. So what we have to do, we just need to enter the details, username and password. Suppose if you see entering the details like admin and password, if you see the characters are not visible. So that's a type of password we are giving. And we have given, along with the types, we just given the names for these particular fields. For username, what we gave, username. So whenever you're submitting a form, then the details with the login servlet actually looks for username and the other value is password. With these values, with these names, what are the names you mentioned over here, with these names, this particular fields will be referred. Suppose as you mentioned, this particular, so what we have given the names for these fields, the one is username, and the second field is password. So with these names, whenever you submit the form, the login servlet actually access these fields and it'll actually check the details with the database. Let's go and do the next level. So let me have more breaks so we can have more space. I don't think this much is required. So I just want to create space for the text fields. Login name. It's more spaces we have. Let me avoid two more. Let's refresh this. There's not much difference. Now it's fine enough. Now it's look pretty good. Now if you just enter the details like admin and admin, so nothing will happen because this is not submitting to anything. So just staying over here. So let me stay in the login page. Now the next step is our login form is ready. Whenever user clicks on Flipkart, the login page is getting ready and we have database users are ready. The only thing is we need to have a business logic which actually checks whether the user is valid or not. If it is valid, then we have to go for the success page and we have to, if it is failure, then we have to return the error page. Let me create a login servlet now. So within the Flipkart SRC, I'm just creating a new class which is login servlet. Within the login servlet, I'm just using HTTP servlet, extends HTTP servlet, which is from Java extract servlet, that is HTTP. Now what I'm doing is, so this is kind of a post operation because the method what and all, the HTML what and all we declared. So here we can mention the method type also. So if you don't want to show these details, suppose if you enter the details here, admin and admin over here, if you just click on enter, what it is showing, the username and password it is showing here within the URL itself. But this is not confidential and this is not safe even. We don't want to show our username and password within the browser URL. To avoid that, what we have to mention is we need to mention our form to post, the method to post. Then it won't show the details over there. Method equal to post. Let's save this and rerun this, how actually the application functions. Now I'm entering the same details, admin and admin. Now we just click on login. Now it is not showing the username and password within the URL itself. So that's the difference between if you don't mention the post over here and if you mention the post, then the details will be confidential. It won't be displayed over the URL. So now we can look into the next one, which is the action part. So what is the action it has to go? The action is about which URL it has to go. Whenever the user clicks on the submit button, which servlet it has to look for. That's what this action refers. So the action I'm just mentioning login servlet, or I can simply give validate login. So I can give any name over here. I'm just giving validate login. So with this, what I'm trying to do is for the servlet, what the servlet we have created, with this servlet I'll be mapping to this particular URL, validate login. Let me go and do this. Later we can implement our servlet interface, servlet implementation. So for that, what I'm doing is I just need to have servlet tag. Within that, I'll need to have a servlet name. So I'll put this name as login, and I need to have one more tag which is servlet mapping. So within this also I need to mention the same name so that these two tags will be mapped. And the second step will be we need to mention the class name. Servlet class, which is our login servlet. Flipkart dot the class name. It's not copied. The login servlet. So I can do this at the last, but I don't want to make you to confuse why I'm mentioning validate login here. And for that reason, I'm just declaring now itself. So within the URL pattern, I need to mention the URL, what it actually refers to. This I'm mentioning this validate login. So if you're confused with this, you can simply mention the login servlet itself. There's no problem at all. But make sure you should mention the same thing over here. So what are the URL you're mentioning within the action? The same thing you have to mention within the URL pattern. Then only it will actually look for the login servlet. Let me keep it in login servlet way. Now our HTML is completely ready with the action and method post. Whenever user clicks on this particular submit method within the form, then it will actually take this username and password, and these will be looked into the web.xml with the login servlet. Whatever the action is available, whatever the servlet is available, respect to servlet will be called within the servlet. Whatever the method we have implemented, that method will be triggered. So coming to the servlet, so the action it is performed, it is post over here. So the method is post over here. So as we are implementing HTTP servlet, we can have the same method available within the HTTP servlet, which is do post. So we don't need to implement the service method. We can go with the do post method itself. Let me implement the do post, which is available within the HTTP servlet itself. I'm just overriding do post over here. So now I'll be writing my own logic which actually communicates to the database, and it will get the data from the database and it will validate it. So let me remove these lines, the predefined code. I don't want this, and I just want to have my username and password to be available. What is this login HTML is doing? Whenever user submits this form, this is actually giving this username and password. So I need to access these username and password with the names. What are the names they mentioned? With those names, I can able to retrieve those data. The way to do this is request dot get parameter of the name. What are the name you have over here? The same name you have to give in the get parameter. Then it will return that particular username. Whatever user entered that in the browser, whatever user enter admin or whatever it is, once you click on it, this data will be bypassed to the servlet, and here this is how you can able to get that particular data whatever user enters. And let me keep in one variable which is uname. The same way we can get the password also. String password is equal to request dot get parameter. The name is password. So now we have the username and password are ready. The next step is we need to validate with the respective database table, which is our F users. So for that we need to connect to this database. Let me have a try catch block available because we are just writing the SQL programming. So we need to have a try catch block. Then only the exceptions will be handled. So it's a mandate to have a try catch block when you're writing JDBC application or something. So now we need to have our JDBC steps. The first step will be load driver class. The second step will be create connection object, and the third step will be create statement object, at fourth step will be close connection. So in between that you need to get result set object, get result set object, and validate results, validate user. Sorry guys. So these are all the steps we have to follow. uh, by following these steps we can able to achieve our whether the user is valid or not. If user is valid, then we have to navigate to the success page or error page. So let me get these lines of code from my JDBC, so I don't want to waste the time over here. I just have the code ready, like the DB code we have already done with this. So let me get the code up from there. So I'm just getting class.forName. The first step is ready with me, and the second step is creating a connection, which is having the connection URL and username and the password for the DB. The third step is creating a statement object. Once I have created the statement object, then at the last I need to close the connection. So that's it. Now in this step we need to get the data from the database, which is statement dot execute query of users. Select star from F users, where this data will be returned, results will be stored within the result set. So now we are getting all the records from the users, but now in our case we don't need to get all the results from the database. We just need to get the particular users from the database. So for that what I'm doing is, I don't want to use this statement. I just want to use the prepared statement for that. With this prepared statement I can able to pass the values dynamically and I can get the particular user. For that what I'm doing is, I'm just creating a prepared statement instead of the statement object. Let me create a statement for that. Prepared statement ps is equal to connection dot prepare statement of. So the query I'll be giving, which is select star from users. So instead of star I'll be mentioning username comma password. I don't want the ID. So I'm just selecting username and password from your users, where username equal to the question mark, which is I just want to replace with this placeholder, and password equal to question mark. So with this what I'm trying to do, I just want to select whether the records or how many records I'll be getting with the result set, like with the username and password, with the what are the values we are getting from the input. I just want to pass these values over here. So the connection, with the connection I just created a prepare statement. Now I just need to set these values. ps start set int of, not in, it's a string, set string of 1, which is username, uname, what are the name you declared here, you just need to set that value, and ps start set string of 2, other one is the PWD. So now our prepared statement is ready with the dynamic parameters. So if you get any results with the result set, then you will be the records will be, then the user will be validated. So just remove this statement. So we are not using the statement here. We're just using prepared statement. So with the prepared statement, just call execute query. That's it. So what we have done, the first step, we just read the values from the browser, like whatever the client is submitting the user details and password. Whenever user clicks on login, then those details, whatever the user enters the detail, username and password, those details we are getting with the particular fields, which are username and password. These names were mentioned in the HTML code with the names. Once you get the names, then the second step is we need to verify with the database. For that, what we have done is we just done the JDBC steps, which is loading a driver class, and the second step is checking whether the connection is success or not with the right credentials. And once the connection we got created, the second step is just creating a prepared statement which makes the username and password validated with the dynamic values. What are the values we have? These values we are passing to prepared statement. The next step is we are actually executing the query. So if we get at least one record, if it is matches, then we got the user is validated. So let me test that. So if of rs start next, so it means I'm just checking if it is at least one record is available within that. Then I just want to print login success. So if there is no record available with the particular username and password, I just want to print login failure. So in the console, but printing in console it is fine, but in our case we need a HTML dynamic web pages response, not like we don't want any console outputs. For that, what we discussed, we just need to have two HTML files. One is success.html, other one is error.html. Let's create those HTML files, and later we can use these HTMLs within the servlet. Sorry, guys. So for that, like how we created index.html, the same way I'm just creating two HTML files. One is success.html. The other one is failure.html. So I just have two HTML files where I can have the content like HTML body. If you want to mention the header part, you can mention over here. In title, I just want to mention success. The body part, I'll just mention I'll be having a one kind of header tag which actually displays the result. Let's do login success. And the same way, I'll be having a failure page. Invalid username or password. Please try again with valid details or valid credentials. So these are I'll be displaying the message. If something got failure, then I'm just putting title as login failure, or here I'm just putting login success. apart from that, I just put welcome to Flipkart. So I'm just printing login success and welcome to Flipkart over here for the success page. So now I have success and error messages HTML files are ready. Now depends on the result whether it is valid user or not. I need to navigate to particular HTML page. For that, what I'm doing is, so whenever I got rs next means if at least one record is available, means whether the user is available in the database, then what I'm doing is I'm just printing this in console, and finally I'm just redirecting that response to the success.html. The way to do this is response.send redirect recipes resp. Let me rename it to res itself. Response.send redirect of the HTML file name success.html. The same way for failure, we just need to redirect to error.html or failure.html. So with this, our servlet code is ready. So for repeat, what I'm telling is, first we have a HTML page ready, which we created index.html. Whenever user clicks on the login page, the home page, then it will actually look for the index.html. In index.html, we have the login page ready, and once user clicks on submit, then it will goes to the login servlet. The login servlet actually retrieve those values using request.get parameter. If the user and password are valid, then it will actually accept the values, and it will validate the username and password with the database. By connecting to the database, it will look for the users table whether the username is password is available or not by checking the result.next. If it is user is valid, then it will navigate to success.html. If the user is not available, then it will go to the failure.xml. And finally, we are actually closing the connection. So that's it for now, and let me restart the application so that our code will be refreshed. So make sure if you are making any HTML file changes, then you don't need to refresh the page, and if you are making any Java file changes, then you should make sure you should reload the project by restarting the server. Just restarting it, run on server. The server is starting, it seems. So once it's started, by default, the Eclipse IDE opens its own browser to show the context URL. So we got the login page ready. Let me see it in the browser. There you have the better picture. Let's continue. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving valid users, admin and admin, which is there in our database. Admin and admin. I'm just giving the valid users. Let me click on login. It seems we got some error. Let's see what error it is. It's saying class not found for java.jdbc driver. So for that, what we have to do, we just need to add the library, which is a MySQL database library, so that it can able to use those classes. Like what are the classes we have, like SQL classes. So those classes will be used with the MySQL library, because we are connecting with the MySQL database. For that, we need to have that library. So let me add that jar file. So the jar file is there with me in desktop, which is MySQL connector. Let me copy this jar, and where we have to place. So you should remember this position where if you want to add any external libraries to your project, you have to add it in the lib folder. So I'm just pasting here. So we got MySQL connector.java. MySQL connector jar file is added to the project. Let me restart the application and test our code. So whenever you're writing any JDBC code or something, you make sure like adding a jar file. Even if you don't add it, don't mind. The compiler will show you to add that jar file. Otherwise, it won't run. Seems it's starting. Yep, it started. Let me go to the browser and just in the login page, I'm just giving the valid users admin and admin. And I'm just clicking on login. Now it is validating with the database and it is showing login success. Welcome to Flipkart. Let's see with the invalid credentials. Just giving Sam. So Sam is not there in our database. If you see, there is no Sam record available in the database. Just have admin and James. Just giving Sam. Let me try this. See, it is telling invalid username and password. Please try with the valid credentials. So let's try with the other user, which is James. James and James. So which is there in our database, and I'm just trying that. So login success. Welcome to Flipkart. So this is how we can able to achieve our end-to-end flow of dynamic web application. So as we see in here, we just created an index.html where it have the username and password fields, and we just calling the login servlet. Once the servlet is getting those details, it will hit the database and it will get the whether the user is valid or not. If it is valid, then it is going to success page, and if it is invalid, then it is going to error page. So this is the first part we have done within this image. The next part we are going to discuss about reading products and adding more products, and this part we can discuss in the next tutorial. Thanks guys, thanks for watching.